Lyle Menendez hearing is happening right now as he looks in remotely from prison in San Diego. And just because Erik was denied his freedom, that doesn't necessarily mean Lyle's fate will be the same.
Absolutely. What we should also note is Lyle is sitting before a different panel of parole commissioners. And to talk more about today's hearing, we're joined again by Josh Ritter. Josh, thank you again for joining us. We're all fascinated by this case. And so when it was breaking last night after 10 hours, it was really lengthy. We were hearing Nathan Hochman, our DA, saying if they just came clean about what happened and took accountability, what are the chances that Lyle heard about this and said, you know what, I think I'm going to change and I'm going to tell what actually happened?
Yeah.
Could an outcome be different today for him?
Well, the outcome could be different. I mean, there's potential for that. It's a different group of board members. He's a different individual. They have always treated them differently. They were tried as individuals. They've had a different experience since their time that they've been in prison, and they're going to be evaluated differently. Not a different standard, but they're going to be evaluated differently. Now, will they? I think that would probably be the most shocking, is if one of them received parole and the other was denied. But to answer your direct question, yes, absolutely, there is the potential for that.
When you read the notes from yesterday, the commissioner really focused at parts. There were it was all over the map, but he really focused on behavior in prison. Yeah. And apparently Erik's behavior has been remarkably different than Lyle's. So could that play a role today, or are we really looking at the crime itself and whether a person should be out after 36 years for that crime?
It absolutely could play a role. It will play a role. I mean, a large part of this assessment is how have they behaved since their time in prison, because they're trying to evaluate, are they a safety risk if they are paroled? And part of that has to do with how do they follow rules? How do they follow being told what to do? And so they have demonstrated that by their time in prison. But a large part of the decision that was made yesterday had to do with the circumstances of the crime, which cannot be changed with their time in prison. The circumstances are the circumstances, and they were questioned and drilled on that quite a bit, on what was he thinking at the time of the crime, what motivated them, and I imagine that Lyle will receive the same treatment.
Yeah, because again, you're hearing, at first it was self-defense, then it was a mob attack, then it was, because, they were molested. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see if their attorney, Mark Garagos, says, okay, you're going to have to switch course on this. I don't know, what do you think Mark Garagos is telling his client? How do you think you might advise your client to testify before parole?
Well, acceptance of responsibility obviously is the central issue here. And acceptance of responsibility means more than just saying, here's the reason for why I did what I did. But realizing that doesn't really matter. What I did was still an incredibly awful thing, and taking full responsibility for that. I think that where the commission may have been hung up, and certainly Nathan Hochman has been hung up, is that they always have seemed to try to want to supply some sort of explanation for it, some sort of rationalization for it. And I think the commission might be looking for them to step off of that and just say, what we did was wrong, full stop.
And we've got to wrap up, but you've pointed out the habeas corpus element of this is still out there. They have to thread the needle about what they say before the parole board and what might still be to come. Quickly, is that accurate?
That's an excellent point. Yes, that's still pending. They're still concerned about it. They don't want to put things on the record that may jeopardize that.
Okay. Josh, thank you very much. Josh Ritter joining us. Again, we can do an hour on all that's going on. It is really a peek behind the curtain is what goes on in these commission hearings, parole boards. But stay with Eyewitness News for continuing coverage of the Menendez brothers' parole hearings. We'll have live reports this afternoon from San Diego as we await this decision.